I'm George.
I'm Devyn, and this is the 28th appointment with Medicinema, your healthy dose of film.
Today, we will discuss two sci fi films with Moon from 2009 and the freshly released Mickey 17. But first, Devin, tell me about a recent film discovery you've made.
So I recently saw Dead Talent Society, and it was pretty fantastic, honestly. In the afterlife, there's like this whole ghost civilization that just like exists just alongside ours. And they all have ghost jobs, and there's like a ghost TV station and ghost celebrities who all become famous from becoming well-known urban legends in the living world. Everything kind of revolves around haunting the living so that people will burn this stuff called joss paper that they do to like appease the dead, which then turns into real money in the afterlife so that people can like pay their rent and stuff. The film follows like this fading star who doesn't want to let go of her fame and her like crackpot stuntman style team who help her like pull off her hauntings, and this young ghost who's going to disappear into the like afterlife. If she can't like make her rent, she just disappears. And so they all try to help her do this. And hijinks ensues. They try to help her, become the new urban legend so she can pay her ghost rent. And it was great. It was absolutely great.
Sounds super funny. Very much sounds Devoncore. Even just from the description, it sounds like something you'd love, yeah.
I didn't even mention it's like a Taiwanese movie.
Oh,
But yeah, it was really good.
interesting. I've barely seen any Thai cinema. Like, I have seen like two movies.
Not Thai, Taiwanese.
Oh, Taiwanese. I'm sorry, I misunderstood. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
I don't know if I've seen any Taiwanese film.
Yeah, I was super surprised. And honestly, it kind of just sparked this whole thing in my head that I don't know, it can't just be an American urban legend. It's got to be like a film person urban legend. But like, I think we're all kind of taught or told that like Chinese movies have all these huge censorship. Taiwan is like part of China's legal system, I think, or something, right?
Yeah.
We're taught that like Chinese movies aren't supposed to have ghosts in them, right? That's like a thing they ban. And that's the farthest thing from the fucking truth that there is. Like, I think like 70% of Chinese movies are about ghosts. And I don't really understand where that idea came from, that people say that they're not allowed to have ghost films.
That's interesting. Like, even if it was true, I'm not sure if the Chinese censorship is really applying to Taiwanese cinema yet. Like, they are trying to get it under full control, but right now it's like this semi-state, like a little looser than Hong Kong, but even Hong Kong cinema doesn't adhere to all the Chinese censorship. So it's like a little different.
Even mainland Chinese films, there's
Yeah, yeah,
so many just about ghosts and stuff. It's ridiculous.
yeah. I just wanted to add that on.
Yeah. I hear that you not only had a great film that you watched, but you had a great film watching experience.
Yeah. So recently I watched Battleship Potemkin. It was a special cinema screening for its 100-year anniversary with a live soundtrack composed and performed by a synthesizer duo called InNote. The film is directed by Sergei Eisenstein. The film depicts the historic events of naval mutiny on this enormous Russian warship that happened in 1905. It was an incredible experience, honestly. This film is still sometimes regarded as one of the greatest of all time, and I now fully understand why. The scale of the production is absolutely ridiculous, with giant sets filming on the sea, at times hundreds, if not thousands, extras. The cinematography holds up incredibly well. Like, some shots in there are so beautifully arranged, but what really stunned me was the editing. This is a very high paced movie. There are big fight scenes that just run so smoothly. The general pacing feels really modern, and there are even some editing choices that still feel experimental to this day. I don't know if I've seen jump cuts used quite like here, never mind in such an old film, and it wasn't off putting either. The saddest thing is that I can't imagine the film now without the hard industrial experimental techno soundtrack ish thing that InNote performed live with it. It was an insane match, but one made in heaven.
That sounds super interesting. I sadly have never seen Battleship Potemkin. I know. That's a sin.
It was my first time too, so I'm just like 10 days better than you.
That's a great title for a movie or a book or a song. 10 Days Better Than You. Oh, that is a
Write that
fantastic
down.
title. Holy shit. Yeah. For real. 10 Days Better Than You. Putting it on my grocery list right there. That's the next list ahead. I'll look at that later and be like, what the fuck does that mean?
Devyn, 2 weeks from now, reading that note and being like, no idea what that means, but that would make a great movie title.
It must be a movie. I better look it up. But I've heard, a couple people talk about these cool, like, these rescreenings, these older films, and then having like a live band play music to the movie or whatever, right?
Mhm.
And what a cool idea. That's got to be so cool. I've never heard this band either. You say it's called Inode?
Inode, like IN and then just Node.
Interesting. Is that an Austrian band?
I think it's an Austrian duo, yeah. One just on like actual physical synthesizer setups, and one on a drum set, but that also has like filters layered on top of it, so it's not like just classical drums. It was a really weird mix. Like, I have been to screenings with live music performance with it, like of old silent film era films. But yeah, this was definitely the oddest mix. And it so works because the film itself is so, as I said, the editing at times with the machinery they show really has some industrial feeling to it. It really matched well. They found a great choice with that one for their style.
Do you already like these guys in Node?
I didn't know them before. It's not like I was a fan of them. I just saw there was the screening and I thought, yeah, that sounds fun.
I looked them up and you Google image search them and it looks exactly like if you were like, hey, let me show you the bands I like. This is what I would picture.
Oh, you mean like they look like a band I would like?
Yeah. That's so funny. That's awesome though. Yeah, it sounds like it's such a cool experience. I'd love to have that kind of thing.
A lot of fun.
Maybe someday if I have more time in my life, I could do that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe if I had a body double, which, I could get a lot more done that way, which is a great moment to bring up the films we have this week.
Incredible transition, yeah. Almost like we have been doing this for 1.5 years now.
Yeah. Starting to get good at it finally.
Warning. The following program contains spoilers. Viewers' discretion is advised.
In Moon, we follow Sam Bell, a cheap contract worker. He supposedly signed up for 3 years to work on a space station on the dark side of the moon. After a crash and the supposed recovery, we found out that Sam is a clone, created to work 3 years at a time and to be replaced afterwards. This was a new one for me, a first time watch. Somehow this flew under my radar. I did not even hear of this before you told me about it as a potential mix or a potential pair to Mickey 17. It was interesting. I really enjoyed it.
Absolutely blows my mind that you did not know this movie already or had heard of it. Like you said, I this feels like what I would imagine like mid era George Core to be. Like not in the beginning of your film experience, but like as you started like getting more serious about movies, I feel like this would have been like a really top tier film for you.
I can see that, yeah. Yeah, totally.
Yep. I'm really surprised that this didn't hit you then. It's not new. It's a fairly old movie.
Yeah.
It is the reason why Sam Rockwell is my absolute favorite actor of all time.
Okay.
Because he just this is a really great example. We'll talk about it as we go, but this is such a great example of really good acting and timing and understanding of your space and shit. But anyways, before we get into it, when we first talked about this movie and we're trying to find something to pair Mickey 17 with, I was like, what do you know about Mickey 17? Because I knew about the clone aspect of that film. And you said, "Oh, I know nothing about it. I literally know nothing. I haven't even seen the trailer. I don't know anything." And I was like, "Cool, I've got the movie for you then that also has a crazy fucking twist, right?" And then we suggested it, we got it ready, and then toward the end of our conversation, you said something like, "Well, yeah, I know the Mickey's about a clone." And I
Yeah,
was like,
yeah.
"Oh,
I knew that one
yay."
sentence.
And I literally was like, "Fuck, I just ruined Moon for him." Without even like meaning to. I was like, "You just told me you didn't know anything. God damn it." Like I was so mad at that moment. I was like trying to hold it in and like just be like, "Oh god damn, I really hope that." And I was like, I hope that enough weeks go by that he like doesn't even remember anything about it. Like that doesn't come back to him. And then you message me later like, "What's the movie we're supposed to watch?" And I was like, "Okay, good. Maybe he's forgotten." So my question was this already pre-ruined for you? Did you already know what was going to happen?
I think I forgot when I started, but like if you had, like I had it still in mind that this was a pairing for Mickey 17. So like I don't know, a few minutes into the crash, or like I think like the moment he wakes up after the crash, actually, I was like, oh, it's a clone. So I guess the twist came minutes earlier than it was intended to be, but it didn't really change the experience too much.
It might even be less than that because I think you get like him waking up and then there's like somebody walking around and like less than 2 minutes later you see like his face and you're like, wait a minute, you know what I mean? Like, so yeah, that's good. That's good at least. I thought I was like, maybe it'll hold on the idea that they're both about dudes working cheap, shitty jobs in space. Maybe that's what this will hold on.
I gotta mention this. Whilst I wasn't fully aware of him being a clone, I did suspect it because I wrote down, the first thing I wrote down was a line early on where he talks to Gertie, and I think like Gertie ignores him or something, and then he just says the line, "I'm talking to myself again." And I again with the having Mickey 17 in the back of my mind, I was like, oh, is might be some foreshadowing here. And yeah, I always love subtle stuff like that. So even though it made me maybe expect it, only due to the context, and yeah, it's a very subtle nod. Lovely little stuff. There's honestly like quite a few things early on that just give you this kind of mysterious vibe of something is off here, in a similar way to like the birthday last episode, just in way toned down, but a similar feeling of something is not quite right here. There's the message he watches early on by his wife that just cuts out before the moment she says any details about the daughter's birthday. So we don't
Time sensitive.
Yeah, we don't get to hear how old she is. We don't get to hear, when it, I don't know, anything regarding that. There's a few times in the beginning where he or Gertie mentions it's 2 more weeks. It's only 2 more weeks. Like for quite a while, it felt like, oh, is he like in a state of constant feeling like it's 2 more weeks, when it actually later on turned out it's kind of that with 3 years. When he wakes up, quote unquote, after the accident, it felt weird to me that he had such a severe, what I thought was maybe loss of muscle power. I was convinced at that point it's either like clone or something with the time doesn't add up at least, and he might have been, after the accident, it might have been like 3 months of him just being in a coma or something. And Gerda is like, no, you're fine. You just woke up. And it was all alluding to something. And yeah, you figure it out fairly quickly, but it's well made. It's very intriguing with the things it sets up and the details it leaves out.
Yeah, I mean, something's wrong because Kevin Spacey is alone with you in a room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, always very unnerving.
Yeah, yep. But no, there's a lot of really fine details in this movie that I think are really good. Even after the mysteries are, unraveled, you get further little bits like the model houses when you see the big model
Oh,
houses,
yeah.
the speed he's working on. I mean, he's only working on 2 or 3 or whatever, and there's that huge city. And he's like, I don't remember starting him or whatever. And I like that
Mhm.
whole idea of like, how long has he really been here and stuff.
Yeah, at that point, I actually tried to calculate it.
Did you really?
Yeah, because Gertie mentions him working on it for 938 hours. So, like, broke it down as to the minimum time it would have taken him so far.
What is it?
I I assumed like maximum, if this is like a hobby of his, he probably has a regular schedule of things he needs to work on, so he can't like do this all the time. So I just assumed like maximum 2 hours a day if he is really consistent, like 14 hours a week, and even then it would have been a year and a half. So I was like, okay, maybe the time adds up. It's not that ridiculously high that I was instantly like, okay, he has been here for 10 years.
Yeah.
If he's really, really efficient, you could do this in like, 1.5 years, I guess.
Interesting. I wonder if that's just how long that one had worked on it instead of how long, like, in total. The detail in this film is that a lot of space movies really do very clean looking ships or very like industrial looking ships, right? Or stations or whatever, there's a lot of like really specific looks to that kind of stuff. In this movie, things are kind of like, it's obviously meant to be clean looking, almost like that alien style white
Yeah, I
place,
even
right?
wrote down alien inspiration in the spaceship design.
Yeah. But there's like, it's kind of dusty. And like there's dirt places and stuff. And like Gertie's trying to keep clean, but like even Gertie is kind of dirty and yellowed a little bit and stuff. And it's kind of a cool point out because like the ISS is a really good example of this. The ISS is disgusting. I'm not joking with you. The walls, there are parts of it that are sticky. How do you clean it? You're in space. How do you get rid of everything? You can't scrub things down with soap and water. You can't, you know what I mean? Like there are things that you just can't deal with. You are in a confined, enclosed area with a being that is losing skin and hair every day into its environment. There's only so much you can keep up with it. So I kind of really like that they kind of dirtied up the set a little bit and it didn't look like just this really clean, sterile environment. I really, really actually appreciated that type of tiny detail that makes this movie more than anything believable because it feels believable.
About the whole set stuff, I actually watched a little behind the scenes making of thing, an old one. The entire moon base set is really interesting because they completely built it in its entirety and had like a closed off set basically where they entered the space station in the morning with the entire team, closed the door behind them, and then they were just in the space station for the entire shooting day until they left it. There's no walls missing for cameras. There's no angle that wasn't finished. It's just this giant closed 360 set. They did it basically to have more freedom of the camera and Sam kind of being able to improvise a little bit, that there's no angles that would ruin the immersion or anything. Obviously comes with drawbacks. If there's a wall behind you, you can't just go back further with the camera at a certain point. For some shots, they did cheat a little bit with that. They did stuff like cut temporary holes into parts of the set to get the camera a little further back. But yeah, for the most part, he talked about how it's really felt like an on-set shoot, almost more so than a stage production, even though it was a giant stage.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I wonder if that made that harder to do blocking for himself.
I would assume so in instances, yeah. However, I do feel like by being limited with the blocking and always having the camera in spaces where it makes sense, like it's an aid to the realism, to what you said with the feeling of, yeah, this feels like a real place. The camera is always in positions where it could be, so it also adds to that. It's not never like too far back or anything. Something else that he also talked about there was that they fully did the Oh, I forgot the name. The set designer of Blade Runner, of the original Blade Runner, once gave that statement of anything in my set has to have a reason. So if you see like a button in the background, if you see a futuristic something, it has to have a reason within the universe to make sense. And they fully applied that to this movie. Any button you see, any little item laying around, it all has a reason to be there in this environment. And yeah, that totally adds to it, obviously.
Yeah, actually, I did kind of notice that, like, especially like his little command station and stuff, and he's got like his little spot where his cup sits and everything, and like, yeah, no, I liked it. I liked that a lot, actually. The Gertie design, I think, is really, really interesting.
I love Gertie so much.
Because we strive to try to humanize robotics, and especially in film, we give them these plush, these happy, looks, big six or whatever. That's big. Is that what that movie's called?
Hero Big Six?
It's not what it's called either.
Something like that.
Yeah. Baymax. Baymax is this big plushy robot.
Big Hero 6.
Wally.
Big Hero 6.
Yeah, there you go. Even Wally, to an extent, has got these eyes and these, he's very cute and very animated. And while Gertie does have a smiley face system,
yeah,
very, very silly and funny.
It's so good.
Rounds that I'm like, oh, Gertie.
Yeah.
But I think it's a really beautiful contrast to make him as inhuman as they could. There's no eyes, there's no mouth naturally. He's this box that hangs from a ceiling track. And that contrasts so strongly by how much you care about him in the end and how much he feels real. Do you know what I mean? He cares about Sam in a real way, kind of, I like that. I like that they contrast that instead of making him a humanoid robot, which they really could have done. I thought that was really neat. It also kind of shows like how, as much as Sam tries to, befriend Gertie and have Gertie be his like companion or whatever, right? That he still lacks that connection because Gertie's still just a box hanging from a ceiling.
Yeah. Several thoughts on things you said there. First of all, I love the overexpressive emoji faces. They constantly killed me whenever there was a cut to a close-up of Gertie. I was like, oh my god, is that adorable? It was so good. Like, I could see that it's a very clear manipulation of Sam and an extension of us, but I can't help but smile back when Gertie smiles at me. Additionally, in the behind the scenes, I actually, like, they didn't even mention it. I just saw it randomly in a shot in the background, how Gertie worked on set. It wasn't actually hanging from the ceiling or anything. It was like on wheels, on green screen wheels, and the thing he supposedly hangs from is just a like stick that goes to the ceiling. And they were driving it around.
I mean, yeah, it makes sense. I can't imagine they made a hanging robotic arm for the film.
Yeah, it totally makes sense once you think about it. That's a lot
of good green screen, though.
Yeah.
It's a lot of good green screen, though. But that's the thing I kind of want to touch on as well with this movie in general, as we lead into talking about the green screen bottom of Gertie, is that this movie has to rely on a lot of green screen. My biggest question is, I've seen a lot of movies, not a lot, I've seen enough movies where you have an actor playing two parts on the same screen. I don't know if you ever saw early TV shows or movies that did that, but you'd literally see a seam vertically down the middle of the screen, where they were mirroring the image or whatever. And then we got rid of that. There was a little bit of unawkward eye angles, like eye lining, like a character would be looking at the other character's forehead or something, right?
Yeah.
Because they didn't understand eye lines correctly yet. And then we got better at that. And then it'd be kind of where I feel like most of the time, even today, where we are is this moment of like character A walks up and is like, hey, you let that go. And character B looks up and with a second pause goes, let what go? Like, and there's like a awkward pause between the characters' interactions that don't quite feel natural, right? And I don't know if that's an editing thing or if it's an acting thing.
I think that's an editing skill issue, honestly. And I'm going to go into why I think that.
Okay. Please do. No, please do immediately.
Okay,
Yeah, go.
it almost more so relates to Mickey 17 because that's actually something that very few people know about Parasite, is that Parasite has a ton of shots that work like that, where Bong Joon-ho just loved to take, like on all the dialogue scenes where the poorer family sits in the living room of the rich family when they were like out for the weekend or something. In those scenes, Bong Joon-ho always liked the acting performance of that one character in that shot the best, and he liked the performance of the other in that shot but the best. So he just was like, fuck it, I'll splice that. Like all those dialogue scenes are performances of various takes and edited together back into one scene. And it works so flawlessly. It's incredible. So you can definitely pull that off.
I simultaneously really love that and hate that at the same time.
I understand you. Yeah, I get that it's kind of over-engineered and it makes something simple very mechanical because it's like almost goes a step too far, I feel like, for such a...
It's kind of like when you can tell the difference in an animated thing where the voice actors each recorded their lines separately and ones where they were in the room together recording their lines. You can always tell that different chemistry. It almost feels like that's leading to that. Let's just have all the actors shoot their stuff by themselves and we'll edit it all together later.
Well, it was shot with all of them there.
I know, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying it feels like it's a leading to that.
Yeah, that would be a bad outcome. Like I think the way Parasite pulled it off is kind of the only way you can do that.
Yeah.
They tried something bold. They did it to perfection. It worked. Don't mess it up if you have not the skills of a Bong Joon-ho.
Leading even into Mickey 17, the editing was there, I think. I think it doesn't really have those awkward gaps between the two characters, right?
Yeah.
But they don't react to each other the same way still. Something as small as, like, say the character clenches their fist while they're talking, and the other character would maybe glance down at their fist while they clench it, right? And then keep kind of the conversation going. That's not something you really see in Mickey 17. But in Moon, it's like he really is fully aware of they are aware of each other. It's like I don't know how they filmed it, if he filmed it and then he would maybe redo parts and stuff so it matched it better again. But I just to this day I have never seen anybody mirror act with themselves so effectively. Because that's what that's the other thing, is this movie hinges on it.
Yeah.
There isn't a whole other cast to focus on. You have to have these two characters interact as humanly and naturally as possible. And I never once ever felt in this movie like that's clearly the same person talking to themselves. It really felt like it was two clones interacting to me.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's an acting thing or an editing thing, but I like to think it's an acting thing.
I would assume so. I don't think I know a better mirroring talking to themselves performance either. I think Robert Pattinson came the closest from those I know. Like it's a really really good performance too. Like no shade on Robert Pattinson at all. But yeah, this is really remarkable. You are totally right. It feels like they are in the same room at all times. There's no moment where the illusion breaks or anything.
And I think it also helps that they are the same person in the way that Mickey 17 is not the same person exactly. There's like that. We'll get into that later. The variation of character. These dudes are the same person who have just learned things at different times. I feel like. Oh, you don't think that?
I could see it being maybe a thing of life experience and how they differ, but they are different.
Interesting. I feel like they're just this. I feel like it's the same person at the beginning of that experience, the same person at the end of it, and how that changes you. But their core person is the same person still.
I could see that, yeah.
Where like Mickey's core is different every time. He's literally like a different embodiment of himself or whatever. This is just like how, stubbing your toe at the beginning of your day might ruin the rest of your day, but on a 3-year long stretch and intensity,
I could see that with 2 examples that I wrote down where they are clearly different. Like we have that scene at table tennis where the older clone just beats him relentlessly. But that could totally be I have been here for 3 years and practicing table tennis with myself. Literally with myself, and now with my clone.
Well, we literally see that minutes later, like
Yeah.
5 minutes later,
Yeah.
when he's then carving and the new clone is now practicing by himself. And I
Yes.
think he actually switches his handstands at one point.
That's interesting. I didn't recognize that. The second example that would also work in that same kind of thought pattern is the new one can't carve wood at all in the beginning. So again, that could be an experience thing. The one thing where I don't fully see it is the new one doesn't seem to care for plants at all. Like the new one really scoffs almost at the idea of how the old one takes care of his little garden that he cultivates. I don't know if I fully believe in the idea of, after 3 years, I guess he just is desperate for new hobbies or anything. It really felt like a very substantial difference in how they approach that.
I have 2 rebuttals on that. First, I've spent most of my life trying to stay out of gardens because as a Hispanic individual in America, I don't know how many times I've mowed my own lawn and been asked how much I charge.
Oh my God.
I have just tried to stay out of gardens.
I'm so sorry. That's so horrible.
It's like I don't want to enforce a stereotype on myself, right?
Yeah.
In the last 3 years, I have absolutely fallen in love with gardening. And like it's planting and gardening and all that shit. I fucking love it. I live for it at this point. Like it's movies, video games, hanging out with my kids, being in the garden. Well, kids is actually above that, but you know what I mean. I'm just naming things. I'm not naming
movies
anything
first,
in order.
video games second, kids third.
No, I'm just naming things. I'm not naming things in order.
Very Freudian lists you got there.
Yeah. To be fair, I'm looking at the TV screen, then I looked at a controller, and then I looked at my kid's shoe. So okay, I had an actual order of things I was looking around at the room at. Anyways, it's a thing I've taken upon that I didn't think I would have liked before, right? So what I think we're seeing when we look at a lot of these actions, because I think there's actually more. I couldn't name them, but I bet you anything there's more.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
When we look at him disgusted at his, we'll call it his later self, you know, the older clone, being into plants that much, right? He thinks to himself, there's no way I could become that guy talking to his plants. And this guy's gone crazy. That's not me. That's not who I'm gonna be. But what we're really seeing is how much this 3-year stint by himself has changed him. You can see it because we see the new version and all the things he is. We see the old version. That is the effect of these 3 years. Normally, you would see that in a film by seeing the character at the beginning and then journeying with them those 3 years and seeing it at the end. In this movie, we get to see the end first and then a refresh of that new character. So it's kind of a flip on the journey. But I think that's what they're really trying to demonstrate is that this is what this character's gone through in solitary confinement, essentially.
Yeah, I can totally see that. I love the interpretation of it.
Do you have other notes?
I'm trying to see which one fits. Something on the casting.
What about the casting?
Okay, so about the casting. I'm always excited when I see former Skins cast members. Have I talked to you about this before?
You have brought up Skins to me before, and Skins is like a UK like trashy soap opera type thing, right?
I would describe it as like the prototype for what later on Euphoria did. With like it's a team.
I would literally call that a trashy soap opera.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. That's okay. But yeah, it's about teens. It's a coming of age kind of thing. It's about drugs. It's about sexual discovery. So yeah, Skins was this prototype Euphoria thing from the UK, and the very first season cast is just legendary. It was just the street cast, as far as I know. Like, I don't think any of the kids acted before this, and so many of them still have a successful career. Here it is Kaya Scodelario. I definitely butchered that name. She's the already grown-up daughter when he calls home, when they destroy the thing. She used to be Effie in Skins, for anyone who knows Skins. But she's like one of the less successful ones. Like it's kind of insane. Other cast members include Nicholas Hoult, who recently was in Nosferatu, Renfield, Mad Max Fury Road, The Menu. Another one is Dave Patel, a Slumdog Millionaire, Monkey Man, Green Knight. And in a smaller role, but still in the same cast, was also Daniel Kaluuya. So Get Out, Nope, Black Panther. And yeah, I'm just, anytime I see one of their faces in a modern movie, I'm like, oh my God, they are still around. That's so awesome.
So the chick is the only person that was in Moon?
Yes.
Okay.
She's one of the not as successful ones, but yeah, it's lovely particularly when I see the not as big actors that came from the same cast. I'm like, hell yeah, another one.
Yeah, I know some of these people. I mean, Nicholas Hoult, of course. Yeah, I know that actor.
You
It's sad to see him go
definitely
from
know.
a good vampire movie to a bad vampire movie. I'm joking.
Oh my God.
I liked Renfield more than I liked Nosferatu, all right? I've seen Nosferatu 3 times already, damn it.
I didn't love Nosferatu. There's a reason we didn't make an episode on it, but I liked it more than Renfield. I wasn't a big fan of Renfield, but it's also a good movie. Like I liked both of them. Yeah. But yeah, you definitely know Dev Patel, right?
Dev Patel is one of those actors where I have seen him in maybe like 1 or 2 things.
Really?
But they're so distant that he doesn't like land as like a consistent actor for me. Like, let's see. Yeah, I've seen Last Airbender, but there's no Last Airbender in Boston's Bay. I absolutely know him from The Best Exotic Marigold Hotel. I've never seen Slumdog Millionaire.
Damn.
I don't remember him from Chappie at all. And the next thing would be, I know he's in Monkey Man.
He directed it also and wrote it, I think.
Oh, okay. But yeah, that's literally it. That's it. And I'm guessing you've probably never seen The Best Exotic Marigold Hotel.
That is
not
absolutely fair. I didn't.
That is an old person movie. Literally. It is about old people falling in love. I mean, like 70 years old and stuff. That's interesting. That's the actor that you picked out of this to mention as like a side note actor, and not Matt fucking Berry.
I need a face for that. I can't right now.
What We Do in the Shadows.
Oh, yeah.
Incredibly funny individual. Mighty Boosh, It Crowd, What We Do in the Shadows, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Super funny guy. Just plays a side-ass character in this movie. Wouldn't even know it's him.
Is he one of the guys who comes to retrieve the dead body?
Nope. Sam gets to talk to Mission Control or whatever. He's one of the 2 dudes at Mission Control. He's literally a blurry face and like a staticky voice. He's got an iconic voice and they barely use it. But no, for me, like I said, it's Sam Rockwell is just. Was he an actor that was on your like radar before this movie at all?
I totally have him saved as a really good character actor, yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's an interesting way to put that, yeah, character actor, yeah.
Yeah, he definitely is.
I realized when I was like younger in my film thing, was like people at the time were really, really into Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp was huge. He was in everything for a good long time there, right?
Yeah. And
people would say how good of an actor he is and stuff. And he is a good actor. He does good characters. He becomes characters, like you said. Like he's a good character actor. My problem is that in any Johnny Depp movie, he pops up and you go, look at Johnny Depp be that dude. Look at Johnny Depp. That's Johnny Depp doing that or whatever, right? Yeah. There are movies where I have finished and been like, that was Sam Rockwell and not even knew it was him. Because he's like Vincent D'Onofrio in that aspect to me. That when he chooses a character, he becomes that character almost like facially, like his face almost changes to become that dude. I think, for me, a couple really big ones for that is like Jojo Rabbit, this versus Galaxy Quest versus The Green fucking Mile versus Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Just those alone, he's such vastly different people. And I think that skill set is also what really helped make this mirror acting work so well.
Yeah, it took me a few moments there to remember who he even was in The Green Mile, because he is such a different character, yeah.
So different.
Yeah.
He's one of those people, like, literally you put a beard on him and you're like, who are you? Like, he's Clark Kent. Like, you could put glasses on him and you don't know he's Superman anymore. And it's fucking weird. And but when I was young, I realized that was my guy, like that, like versus, I was dating this girl and she was so into Johnny Depp and Orlando Bloom and all these, of the time hot. Yeah, he was at the time though, because this is the era of like Lord of the Rings releasing, right?
Yeah,
Pirates of the Caribbean movies coming out in my teenage years, But these were the big actors at the time, and I was like, bro, they just look like the same dude every film with different hair. That's it. That's all they do. And then I saw Moon, and I was just convinced. I was like, this is the actor. This is the actor people need to be keeping their eyes out for. This is the guy people need to watch out for. And to this day, I really don't feel like he's actually honestly got the real recognition for that in general. I think he's often sidelined.
Yeah, that's kind of a repeat problem if you are too good of a character actor that you almost to the general public disappear and kind of get unnoticed compared to the degree you would deserve it. Yeah, totally. That's he's not the first guy to live through that.
And Vincent D'Onofrio, he's been really lucky, because that's the other big one I would always name of that kind of stuff. He's been really lucky that lately, he's really gotten the appreciation he deserves. I think especially with him coming back to Daredevil and stuff has really, really pleased people.
Yeah, to me, the instant example that my brain always goes to with that is Tilda Swinton. If you take Suspiria as an example, where she literally plays 3 characters, and I didn't even recognize the third one till the end. And then knew going in that she plays several characters. Like, I was looking out for her. Where's the third character?
Tilda Swinton is so good at that I don't even remember what it was, but some TV show made a joke and they were doing like a fake trailer and they showed like an alien bug that was clearly just like a praying mantis wearing a hat or whatever. And like the credit was Tilda Swinton underneath it. And just like, that's literally her thing. That is what she does, is be different things. And yeah, no, absolutely appreciate that. Oh man, I would love a heist movie that's based on disguise work that starred Tilda Swinton, Vincent D'Onofrio, and Sam Rockwell. Holy shit, that would be incredible. So good. So good.
But yeah, really I think we should get back to the movie.
Yeah, to moon. Well, I tried for a second when I said I thought that's what made his mirror work was his skill. But yeah. Do you have any other forward notes on this one?
Yeah, I like the idea of showing what happens if you don't have any sort of regulatory body. With the station literally being positioned unreachable on the backside of the moon, it implies that no one ever checks on this company, because how would you? Like, you can't just like pass by on Sunday and check if they're still doing their thing. They just have total control how they treat their clones, total control over the clones physically, with the environment literally being a closed off space they can't flee from, and even kind of total control mentally with the manipulation through videos and Gertie, which is literally the only thing that Sam can interact with. So it's a very unique little setting they carved out there, and it really shows and feels realistic again. It comes back to this, you could see this happening because it has no regulatory body.
Interesting. Is that not your run-of-the-mill corporate company gone awry with no oversight trope, right?
I mean, it is. I just like how they worked through it here. Like the way it is set up.
That's fair,
It's
yeah.
kind of the thing with with like in The Thing, where there's just the simple idea of having this isolated station you can't flee from is obviously a trope, but there's certain examples where they use the trope to completion, and I feel like this is one of those, with the idea of no regulations lead to total control and exploitation.
So in that regard, do you like the ending in which the one we have, that we get that little resolution at the end that, cloning is banned or whatever? I forget what it says at the end. But do you like that?
I'm unsure about it. It feels like an easy way out. It feels a little bit like they didn't know how to end it, so they just made I guess he could get away with the capsule and navigate all the way to Earth safely without any help, without, any additional. Yeah, I don't know.
I've wondered this for a long time, if they actually had a different ending set up in the beginning. And I had wondered if this is just a looped experience. Because as you pointed out before, that he didn't know how to carve. He didn't know how to hold the racket correctly. There's a couple things. It's what's called the bootstrap paradox, is the idea that you love Mozart, you go back in time, you meet Mozart has no idea what you're talking about. You teach Mozart his music, you come back in time, you love Mozart, repeat, right? It's almost that idea that like the clone comes out, the old clone teaches him how to carve, how to do the thing, he dies, he forgets about it after a time for some reason. New clone comes, repeat. And I almost wonder if that was what they were gonna go with, because there's clearly the clone body dies after so many years, right?
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be too far-fetched to say, well, memory in the first 6 months is fuzzy, and it refreshes after 6 or so months, so they kind of forget everything.
I didn't even take it as that. I more so thought that it's just a helpless situation, because it is implied that some of the earlier clones already made this discovery. Like we see in the scene where Sam logs onto the PC with Gertie's help. Lovely moment. And I love the idea behind it, with Gertie just being programmed with the goal to help Sam. So in that moment, he helps Sam. But yeah, in that scene, we see old recordings of Sam's logging into the PC and making the same discovery. Like there is such a shot in there. So I almost took it more so as, yeah, they might figure out what's happening, but they only have so long and they are very, very limited in their possibilities to do anything about it. So I just took it as, yeah, he might be unhappy for like the last 6 months that he knew, but what is he gonna do? He's slowly dying. And then the next, once it's reset, then he's just a fresh one, and there's just a chance that at some point he might end up at the same place. But yeah, I don't know if they totally planned for it. I could see that. But I think I would have preferred a more nihilistic version of this, where it kind of shows this inevitable power struggle, this impossible mountain to climb,
Yeah. Do you think this movie would live up today if this movie was released today? Or do you think that how old it is kind of is a factor of it, of its power?
No, I think this would totally hold up.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
that's good. Like especially that ending, I feel like it is a little like the montagey ending is kind of cheesier nowadays.
A little bit. I just think that it's such a small part of the experience. Like I almost didn't care at that point anymore. I know that's not really a compliment towards the movie, but
no, I know what you mean though.
Since I was just occupied with all those positive experiences, whatever is happening right now, to me it was already done in my mind, and what happened up until that point was great. So I didn't really care. And yeah, there's a lot of people who would definitely prefer this happy ending still to compared to a kind of nihilistic ending. I don't know. Seems fine to me. It doesn't destroy the movie or anything. It could have been better, yeah.
I'm just reading a side thing here that people really, really wanted. They like sent in and write in letters and everything about it, that people wanted him to be nominated for Best Actor for this. It was
Makes
an
sense.
entire upset that he wasn't even nominated for this. So the nominees for that year were George Clooney for Up in the Air, Morgan Freeman for Invictus, Jeff Bridges for Crazy Heart, Colin Firth for Single Man, Javier Bardem for Beautiful, James Franco for 127 Hours, Jimmy Rennie for The Hurt Locker, and Jesse Eisenberg for Social Network. Ugh.
Not a giant fan of most of these, yeah.
Yeah. I would have also felt like that was an Oscar snub for sure.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting that the Oscars are kind of changing in that regard. Like, for the most part, this was just the situation that if you aren't a big budget movie and you have this kind of smaller indie project, even if the performance is good enough and there's like people rallying behind it, the Academy will just not they will just miss it. But in 2023 there was kind of this, or 2022, I'm not entirely sure, but for the movie To Leslie, that barely anyone saw because it's a really, really small movie, did get an Oscar nomination for the performance of the lead actress, Andrea Riseborough. And it was really the situation where this happened again. So a bunch of actors and like online campaigns and stuff like that basically asked the Academy and were like, hey, you gotta recognize this performance. It's incredible what you did there. It truly is. I watched the movie. It's not my favorite movie or anything, but the performance is insane. Totally worthy nomination. And it worked. It worked to such a degree that the Academy tried to, I think, sue her or something, or like tried to disqualify her for not adhering to classic campaign, like the classic way you campaign for it. They said basically that she was manipulating the system to get a nomination, which is insane. Like, that's what the campaigns do. That's literally the idea of the campaigns. And this little small indie movie where Andrea Riseborough just used her context in Hollywood and were like, hey, please watch this movie. I think we did something great here. She just did the private route of a campaign, basically. And they were like, hey, that's not fair.
You're not supposed to do it yourself.
Yeah, you're supposed to have a giant studio do that.
Wow.
But yeah, it shows that this did change a little bit. There is ways nowadays. And I think if this was a current year release, there's a chance that despite it being such a small film, Sam Rockwell would be nominated now.
Yeah. Well, it is nice with the Oscars, as much as I hate them, have actually finally announced, I think it was like a week ago or whatever, that going forward, each person has to prove that they have actually watched every film from a category before they're allowed to vote on that category, which means we'll have a lot of people turning a movie on and going to make lunch.
Yeah, definitely.
It also led me to find out, and I thought this was pretty interesting, that there is a official streaming service for the Oscars.
Yeah.
That only exists for the people who vote on it. Mm-hmm. I wonder if they like have like a subreddit where they're like, the movie won't load. Why won't the movie load? Like there's like problems with their streaming service like everybody else's. But, you know, talking about a movie, going from a movie that probably was Oscar snubbed, transitioning to a film that will probably be thrown dozens of Oscars, just fucking because. We have Mickey 17.
That's wild. I don't think it's gonna do well at the Oscars at all.
I have a feeling people are gonna throw things at it because it's big, and they're riding that Bong Joon-Ho shit, who I love.
Is it big? Like, did it do well?
Yeah, it didn't necessarily do well, but it did a lot of money, and a lot of people saw it.
But it's like this, like it's so early in the year. It's the Challengers thing, you know. Challengers did incredibly well, was highly regarded by critics, but it released in the early, like in the spring, like Mickey 17 just last year, and it was totally ignored by the Academy at the end of the year.
I think there's enough things in Mickey 17 that we're going to touch on that are just political enough to be safe at the same time that is perfect Oscar type bait shit.
Warning. The following program contains spoilers. Viewers' discretion is advised.
Mickey 17 follows Mickey Barnes, a man on the run trying to avoid paying some mobsters a late loan. Mickey flees to space alongside a colonization ship led by an insane ex-politician as an expendable, a person who's reprinted every time they die and thus given the worst jobs available. You did not go into this film with high hopes like I kind of did. Why didn't you?
Yeah,
What were your reservations?
I wouldn't say I had no hopes for it or anything, but I had reservations for sure. The main reason being that this movie was supposed to release literally over a year ago at this point. The first release date was March 2024, the initial planned release date. Initially, it got pushed back for the first time, supposedly due to the actor strike, which, sure, let's give them that. But then it got delayed, I think, 2 or 3 more times. And that made me really skeptical about it. Additionally, I am in the camp that fully believes that Bong Joon-ho's Korean films are, on average, above his English-speaking films. So Okja and Snowpiercer so far. This is his third.
Ooh, okay. That's wild. I think Okja and Snowpiercer are some of my favorite of his movies. That's interesting. I don't think above his Korean movies for me, but I just don't think I would even separate them into camps like that, actually.
Yeah, to me, like in my experience, quite a few of the issues I had with Snowpiercer and Okja are that I feel like they are nowhere near as nuanced with their commentary, with their political statements, with their messaging, you know? And particularly if you compare it to his Korean films. Like there's stuff in, I don't know, Mother. Like that's such a subtle character study. I had the feeling that whenever he works in the US studio system, that I don't even know how else to put it, but it becomes more Hollywood.
I can understand that. Yeah, I understand that. I think Okja and Snowpiercer have a lot of political things to say.
Yeah, for sure. I just think they are too on the nose.
I want to remind you, the host exists.
Yeah. I know. That's why I said on average.
So I think, so to me, I don't think it's necessarily as a what language he's filming or where he's filming. I think it's just that he doesn't always hit the same. You know what I mean? There's a variety of them. I do think, though, and I'd love to say this off the top of the movie, or off the top about the movie, is that I've talked many times about seeing the creative snowball or inspirational snowball of a creator. A big one for me I always bring up is in video games is Hideo Kojima and how he implements the same music, the same score, a lot of the same naming conventions, and same themes throughout games until he kind of culminates in this ultimate thing of all of these that just it winds them all up beautifully together into one thing, and they call that Death Stranding or whatever, right? And that's, all these pieces put together into an amazing puzzle. This, in my eyes, is literally Bong Joon-ho trying to do that. I know this sounds superficial, but it is literally how the human brain works when you create shit, right? You have the snow from Snowpiercer. You've got I'm not even joking with you, okay? You've got the creature design is very out of the host with their like not having human appendages and having like a tongue type thing and it being more intelligent than you expect it to be. You have
also a little bit with Okja.
The animal rights aspect of Okja, right? You've got that whole aspect going on. God, give me more Bong Joon-ho movies.
The general capitalism critique that is in pretty 100%. Much any Bong Joon-ho film.
Any of his movies, yeah. This is literally everything Bong Joon-ho is thought of, rolled into a ball and thrown at the wall. This is for me the ultimate moment of you tried too many things, none of them were pushed far enough, and it kind of all made it bland. It's the equivalent of putting a bunch of fucking bad vegetables in a soup, and it just kind of tastes like an amalgamation of bad vegetables. They weren't seasoned, they weren't cooked properly. It just tastes like bleh, you know. And that's how I really feel about this movie, and I feel bad about it because in this movie is a good movie. There's a lot of great ideas here that could have been taken so much farther, and are just not.
I agree to a certain degree with you. I think there's too much in this. It is one of my bigger problems that I feel like there's just some side arcs and story aspects that I feel like kind of run into nowhere and drag out the movie runtime and take away from exploring other ideas more. But I wouldn't call it all bad vegetables. I think it's still a good movie.
Yeah. I mean, I still like vegetable soup.
you still like bad vegetables in a soup, though? It sounded like
no. I guess what I should say is it just makes like a basic ass stock is a better way to put it. It just makes a basic ass stock.
Fair.
You need to have like rice and barley and other things in it. I'm trying to think of things that aren't meat because you're a vegetarian, but you know what I mean. You got to have other things in it that give it real sustenance. This is just the basic stock distilled of Bong Joon-ho film. And that's all it feels like.
I can see that. It kind of adds into that feeling of, I just think that it doesn't work as well in the American system. But I do still think it's a pretty good movie.
I don't know if I do. I think there's some things I'm closer to in this film that bother me, actually. I think the first one I want to get over is the what's his name? Secret Hispanic's name. I just found out he's Hispanic. Mark Ruffalo.
Secret Hispanic's name.
I would never have known that dude was Hispanic. I didn't know he was playing for my team. I didn't know that. That's cool. Did not recognize that at all. Makes a lot of sense. But man, does that guy, I thought he was white as hell. But Kenneth Marshall is clearly I
know what's coming.
Really, really watered down version of Trump.
And that's the interesting part, because he isn't intended to be.
That's bullshit. Okay, that's got to be bullshit, because the entire fake assassination scene, or the entire assassination scene,
that was filmed
identical.
That was filmed before it happened. That scene existed. No, that scene existed before it happened. Like, this film was, as I said earlier, it was delayed a few times. Okay. This film sat on the editing floor for a long time.
And they needed to go back and redo it. They should have been like, oh shit, that just happened in real life. How can we make that better? Because at the moment it just feels like a watered down version of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
that's interesting, yeah.
Where I am, I mean, come on. The way he speaks is Trump has a very distinct rhythm in his speech, and you know what I mean, the way he words things. There are a lot of times where Ruffalo's almost mimicking it.
I think that it might be from the performance stance, there might be some intention by Mark Ruffalo for it. I give you 100%. That. In interviews talking about this, Bong Joon-ho mentioned several times that it really wasn't written or anything to be like Trump. There were real-life inspirations, but the people were deceased, so historical figures. He said that people see that in that just shows how history repeats. He also mentioned in the interview that on different premieres around the world, people saw different local politicians in it. It wasn't always Trump. We just, in the Western world, have such a strong association with Trump. You in particularly obvious. That you instantly see Trump in it, but people saw other right-wing extremists in it around the world.
That is fair. And while that tracks, right?
Mm-hmm.
At least as far as my viewing experience, right? if something is going to mimic Trump or even accidentally mimic Trump in this way, to not go harder about it, either comedically or seriously, right? Makes it feel like it's just done to be topical. It feels corporate, like a corporate joke about it. And in a time in I think a lot of Americans' lives where we're just so sick of the corporate tie to all of that, it just feels like it's.
Yeah, I
Go ahead.
totally know what you mean. And there's actually an interesting thing regarding that. I think this is an effect that only happens because we see this film now being released in 2025. If this movie released 1 year ago, it wouldn't feel like that. And Mark Ruffalo talked about this actually, where he said apparently several times whilst filming this to Bong Joon-Ho, if his character isn't just like too over the top and too cartoonish, like this is just ridiculous. And now that he gives interviews about it, he says it's insane how real it all of a sudden feels, how it's not over the top enough anymore almost. So it's so funny that that's exactly your experience of you don't feel. It's wild. It's just that reality caught up to satire so quickly that it's already feels a little bit outdated. Yeah, I totally agree.
The whole combined with the lessons that he's trying to teach, that he's already taught through Oakjaw, that he's already taught through Snowpiercer, all these things, right? All of them being kind of watered down with that makes the movie feel a bit pandering, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get you on that regard. That's kind of how I feel about Snowpiercer and Oakjaw. That's a good way to put it. Yeah,
I could definitely see that. I think Oakjaw I just really like because it's the animals. I really like the creatures and stuff.
I mean, I'm vegetarian. Like, it totally hits me, Oakjaw. Don't get me wrong. I just think it's over the top.
Yeah, but I like that over the top. I like that they doubled down with Oakjaw, and it's like, hey, we had the Tilda Swinton character that was really wild in Snowpiercer. Now we have two of them. Now we have Tilda Swinton and Jake Gyllenhaal, and they're gonna be fucking weird. And I was hoping that this, from the trailers, I was hoping this was a movie full of those kind of characters, and none of them really push that limit of those characters. Mark Ruffalo gets close a lot of times, but nobody really pushes that limit of being like a really over the top crazy character in this movie.
Yeah, I get it.
The first time one of those little creatures jumps at somebody, I instantly was like, he's not trying to bite you. He's like a dog.
Yeah.
It's clearly behaving like a dog.
I saw that too, yeah.
I felt like, like that. Either they should have done that a little bit differently, because it just feels like it's like when you watch a movie and the whole movie, you just shout at it like, they know. Everybody knows. Why are you acting like it's a mystery? We all know. Like, I don't know. It just bothered me. It bothered me how long they drug that out to the very end of the movie. It literally took to nearly the end of the movie for them to be like, oh, they're intelligent. Everybody. Oh my God,
I know.
You're idiots.
I know. I want to say some positive things. Since
Sorry.
It's all good. It's fair criticism. I do see all of those things in it. I just don't see them as severe as you do, apparently.
Did you expect me to like this a lot more than I do?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit surprised. Let's talk about some notes that I took on positive things. First of all, there's quite a bit of subtle world building in this. I wrote down one scene that is just a masterful example of those little things that I enjoy with that. The ball that tases them doesn't get talked about at all. Like, there's the scene early on where they catch them and, the loan sharks. And they just throw out these balls. We just see them work with good staging. We understand how it follows them. We see their panic. We see them run away. We see them it catch up to them, tase them. It's all there. No exposition needed. Just a natural establishing thing of a little detail in the world. It's not really needed. It could have been the same scene with just tasers. No one would have questioned it. But the way they do it is really nice, well executed.
My favorite part of that entire taser scene is that they have to put him back on chargers.
Yeah, good detail.
I'm not lying. I thought that was really, really, really good. I was like, oh yeah, we still have to charge shit in the future. That sucks. I read somewhere or saw somewhere that the accent and the voice entirely that Robert Pattinson, that it was by accident or something, that he it wasn't what he was planning on. It wasn't what they were really going for. It just kind of happened or something. And I want to call bullshit on that. It's such an antithesis to every character he's done recently. I call it sequel reversal. Oftentimes, like, say, the sequel characters are always opposite of what they were in the first film or whatever. It's like all his last movies, he's had these really brusque, darker, deeper voices and stuff. So this time he'd be like, "Hi, I'm Mickey." Like it's just such a funny like. I feel like as an actor, it's a very purposeful turnaround that he made.
I like it. I like the voice.
I do like it. I do like it too. I do.
I really like the scene where they first meet. Mickey and Nasha. It's this silent moment in the cafeteria. So like the scene is actually of a moment where something exciting happens in the background. Like a fight breaks out or something like that. I don't quite remember. But what we hear is all of the other sounds going down, and we just hear the music. And I just really like that, how it kind of portrays it almost more so as a memory than a thing happening right now, I felt like. Because memory just never is fully perfect. And he doesn't remember the exact words, apparently, that she said to him. She's also quiet. And they are both like muted. You just hear the music. But he remembers that feeling that he got in that moment. He remembers the looks.
When she's inviting him across the thing?
Yeah.
You can clearly see what she says.
Well, I'm no lip reader or anything.
I would say that may be a second language lip reading. She says, "Do you want to come sit here?"
Oh yeah, no. That the first one, sure, but then they have like a full-on dialogue there, and it's all muted.
Okay, yeah. No, that's interesting. I just took it as like shitty montage.
It's not even a montage at that point.
It's not. There's another term for that when you like J cut, L cut. There's a film term for that when you drop the music or you drop the dialogue and you just have the background music play over the thing. There's a term for that. But yeah.
I thought it was very well done for such a moment. It feels like the perfect situation to use such a tool. And then this scene leads to the propaganda speech about the greatest sex encouragement campaign in history, which, great line, love it, intercut with the first night they spent together. And that was just a hilarious choice as well. And
very good.
It also, at that point, plays the song, what's it? Who's the guy again? Twilight is the song. Elliott Smith. Twilight by Elliott Smith plays at that point.
That's very funny that it's Twilight.
It is, yeah, that's true. I didn't even think of the fact that it's, Robert Pattinson, Twilight. Yeah, that's funny too. My thing why I wrote that down is that it specifically takes the middle part of that song where there's this little piano melody that just repeats over and over and over again. I listened to the song, it plays 16 times before it continues with the song. So we hear 16 iterations of the same thing before we continue on with the story, so to speak, of the song. Whilst in the film, we literally early on see 16 iterations of Mickey before we continue on with the story with the 17th version.
So do we though? Don't we only see like 4 of them?
Okay, yeah, like the idea is, we don't. Oh my god, you're such a
okay. No,
like
I know, but I know.
Yeah,
you're right. Okay,
that's not the point.
You're right. The only reason I bring that up is because I had a conversation with a mutual friend of mine about how we would have preferred if this movie was more focused on all of the previous Mickeys leading up to this one.
Interesting.
I would have loved to see a lot more about them, because this movie already feels a little too long, and I feel like that could have been a better chunk of time used, honestly. Because I liked the previous Mickey stuff. I liked watching all of the things he goes through, the like tests they do on him about being expendable and shit. I don't know.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
It's one thing to always wish a movie is something it isn't, but like that's why I thought, I was like, wait a minute, did I miss something? Was there a part I didn't know that they do show all 16? Fuck. That makes sense then.
But yeah, everything about the introduction of Mickey and Nasha, I thought was really well done and had some incredible creative choices.
How do you feel about the movie opening with one of those like freeze frame, like this is me, and you might be wondering how I got here type moments? Like, how do you feel about that?
I feel like that's something that happens when Bong Joon-Ho films movies in America.
That's not something that happens. What do you mean? What doesn't happen in either of his other movies?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. What I'm saying is that it's such a classic Hollywood trope. It's such a classic thing that a cliche Hollywood movie would do, and you would never expect from a Bong Joon-ho, but all of a sudden he makes another movie in America, and we get all the Hollywood tropes. Who would have guessed?
For somebody who likes Hollywood movies, you're hating on Hollywood a lot.
Yeah. I can't deny that, yeah.
There's something to be said, right? We can see in music in the early 2000s and 2010s, genre was starting to bend, and we had a lot of like really strict like punk, rock, metal, hip hop, classical, opera. There's a lot of really strong definitions of genre. Even like all the types of EDM and stuff that were very strictly house, very strictly drum and bass, very strictly jungle. Things had a kind of a line they followed. And as the internet, as the international reality of life has grown, genre has kind of melted away. And nowadays, most music is at least 3 genres, unless you're really super specific genre band. But most popular music, I should say, is an amalgamation of many genres. We have top 40 pop songs that have hip hop in them. We have top 40 pop songs that have rock in them now. Shit, Old Town Road is a fucking country rap song. And I think that we are probably going to start seeing that same amalgamation in film. And this could be a really good future, looking back and seeing those marks. This could be a really good mark for that, for when the Korean film industry and the American film industry really started blending how their films work together. So my question is, where music, I think it's actually been really beneficial to music to have that genre shift. Do you think that's beneficial in film, or are you a are you a film racist and a film eugenist and need things to stay the same way?
That's a
Sorry,
insane way to put that, but I know what you mean.
I know. That's why I started laughing, because I realized how insane it was. Do you prefer films to have the feel of their country of origin?
Okay, many notes on that. The country identity thing is an interesting aspect that I haven't really thought about before when it comes to like film styles. So I would need to think on that one longer. I don't really know. I would assume there's positive and negative aspects to it, as there pretty much always is. But regarding the genre bending, I think we're way beyond that point in movies too. Even if you just look at Bong Joon-ho, what genre is Parasite?
Oh no, John. No, you're right. Now, genre. I was using a music genre to be an analogy to like you said, country identity is what I was. So
Okay.
no, genre bend. Yeah, I mean, God, we've been doing that since the 70s.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
shit. No, genre bending in film has been around for a long time. That's definitely something that it's not even. There's movies from 10, 20 years ago that are impossible to find by genre.
Yeah. Regarding the whole identity, I'm not entirely sure if that doesn't already exist as well, and I just can't think of the examples, because there have just been so many historic filmmakers that went to the US to make their movies there, and
Which is That's how it starts. That's how it begins. Yeah.
And I'm not sure if I'm trying to think of like an example where it really didn't feel like an American movie because it wasn't made by an American, but was made in America.
Birthday feels like an American movie made in Spain, because it is.
Funny Games
like,
US exists.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
That's one.
It is literally the same movie again, though.
Yeah.
It's the idea of like art imitates life, and then life imitates art, back and forth, right?
Mm.
Like, we have Bong Joon-Ho coming to America. We have other directors coming to America and making films in America. And for the most part, when a director comes in and starts making movies in America, they bring their directorial style and they kind of Americanize it a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And that's been happening for a long time. But what we're starting to see is a mixture of other countries not only developing their own film identities for newer countries that don't have a film identity, to ones that already have kind of a set of film identity, that are starting to become more Americanized in their film identity because they're growing up on American films, or they're growing up on such films. And I think that's going to blend even farther as you put more pots into it. When Korean film identity mixes with Japanese film identity, starts to mix with French film identity, I'm talking when it all starts coming together. And I think that we are at the beginnings of that, where you're seeing other countries, bringing it in. There are, like you said, examples probably of La Haine is a great example of a French film that has a lot of American identity in it, but is still distinctly a French film.
I can already think of examples where stuff like that throughout history always happened. It's definitely getting more because just, the internet makes it easier to access the international films, for sure. But if you just think of the fact, like all of Sergio Leone's work in Italy was heavily inspired by Kurosawa in Japan, even South Korea. If you take Park Chan-wook, the second like super big South Korean director, he's heavily influenced by a lot of French and even like German filmmakers. I know that Rainer Werner Fassbinder is a heavy influence on Park Chan-wook.
Sergio Leone, by the way, is a great example because you take his inspiration of Japan, Italian film, and then bring that in making Westerns in America, right?
Yeah.
That's like the perfect example of that.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say we're at the beginning of it, I even mean 40 years ago. I even mean, I'm not saying like this year or like that, because it's something we have seen sparks of in the past.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's just going to explode now.
For sure. Yeah.
Based on your feelings about Bong Joon-ho's American influenced films, do you think that's bad for Bong Joon-ho? Do you think that's bad for current film?
I think Bong Joon-ho kind of works as like an artsier version of something that Taika Waititi did for a while, with alternating between MCU films that make him money and then going back to his little projects and using that money he made to fully live out the creative freedom in his smaller stuff. I think this is by far not the same to the same degree, but a similar idea here, where this is by far the biggest movie he got to make so far, budget-wise and everything. I would assume it's also the movie where he earned the most. I hope and feel like that after this, he might go back to Korea, make another smaller, quote-unquote, small movie in Korea. And I don't think that we will see a lot of the tropes that I dislike here, the lack of subtlety in the next Korean thing, or I hope. So as long as we get those smaller films then as a result, and he's not just turning into a blockbuster director now that does studio productions. And again, it sounds like I'm trash talking Mickey 17. I still think it's a good movie. It's just not up to that insane level of quality that he set in the past.
Yeah, that's valid. Ironically, this entire philosophy that you're alluding to is Hollywood. Martin Scorsese is the person who coined the phrase "one for them, one for me."
Yeah, that's what I was looking for.
In regards to filmmaking. Yeah. So it's funny that that's a Hollywood tactic.
Yeah, for sure. It is. Don't get me wrong. Yeah.
We should bring it back a little bit to Mickey 17.
Yeah.
In general, what do you think of the acting behind this film?
most of the acting in here is really good. I'm not too big of a fan of the Mark Ruffalo performance and the Toni Collette performance, but they are kind of an amalgamation of the same character to me.
Interesting.
More so
That's
Mark
not who I would've
Ruffalo,
called.
less Toni Collette, but still a little bit Toni Collette.
That's not at all who I would have called out.
Okay, interesting.
That's interesting, yeah.
I like the other performances. I don't think any of them are like career bests or anything, but I think all of the other performances are really good. Who would you have called out? Stephen Yeun?
Yeah, I thought it
Okay.
exactly.
That was the one I was kind of on the edge to mention also, yeah.
He's essentially the space version of the same character he is in Okja.
Yeah, that's fair.
He's like a traitory asshole character, and I'm kind of like, is Bong Joon-Ho mad at Stephen Yeun for being an American Korean? Like, why does he always make him like a cool guy traitor asshole? But yeah, no, that was my big one.
Okay.
Toni Collette would have definitely been the next, I think, honestly. But yeah, it was Stephen Yeun. I really feel like didn't really add a lot to this movie.
Mhm. There's one scene where they have like that dinner where Mickey is invited to. And oh my god, that prayer turn song was so hard to watch. Like they start off just having a little prayer for the deceased friend of Kai.
Oh, it's so uncomfortable.
Yeah, that scene is a real achievement of the movie. To me, it's such a perfect, simple example of how right-wing propagandists love to take religion as an easy way out to further their goal, and how hollow it rings to anyone who questions their intentions at all. There's certain people who would, in that situation, just start singing with them and be fully into it, and we're like, yeah, those guys, those are my guys, you know, they stand for my values. Some people would be tricked by that scene, like if that happened to them. But anyone who at all questions intentions totally sees the hollowness behind that prayer, behind that song, how performative it really is, how it's just a performance, and how kind of disgusting it is to take the concept of religion and turn it into a performance. And yeah, that all happens within this little uncomfortable few minutes of the film. And I thought that was really well done.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. Yeah, I've been talking a lot of shit about this movie, more than you have, more than I've been making it sound like you have. I did enjoy this. I just was let down. You know, I think that's what
yeah,
I really
it's an
restate.
expectation kind of thing, probably also.
Which is probably something I need to stop doing because my last two films of Bong Joon-Ho have been ruined by expectation.
What was the other one?
Famously, and this is all about expectation, okay? Me and my wife were sitting on the couch one night. We were kind of drinking and, you know, smoking or whatever and getting silly. And we wanted to watch a really good horror movie. Something really fucked up, something with like violence and just scariness and, you know, something real messed up. And under the horror section is Parasite. We had not seen it yet. We didn't know anything about it. We knew it was a Bong Joon-ho movie, and we go, shit, it's a horror movie? That's awesome. And we watched the entire movie waiting for it to become a horror film in a traditional sense, because you could argue that it's horror. But
Yeah, that's what I meant earlier.
That's like saying like a war movie is a horror movie because war is horror. But like, we waited for the shoe to drop the entire film, and and it never does. That ruined the expectation of that movie completely, or that expectation ruined that movie completely for me. And hopefully for me, this will be kind of a wake up call as far as putting these big movies on pedestals, because I've tried to not do that for a long time with film in the first place. That's why I don't pay attention to directors as much. I try to just let movies be a movie. And I let myself get away with that on this one. I really, really sat down, just so hyped to watch this. And lesson learned.
I have a few more little notes. I guess the one super positive I still have is another thing that kind of falls into subtle world building, I guess. I like the way the critters behave in the like war situation. There's this moment where they feel like they could get attacked, and a bunch of the small critters kind of throw themselves onto a pile to cover the mother. And in other places, a whole bunch of critters also pile up, so you can't really make out where the mother is hidden. Like, that's a super cool little thing that's just, it feels like a natural, yeah, some animal would evolve to do that. Makes sense. I buy it. That's a great little thing that doesn't get explained or elaborated on. We just see it happen and it makes sense. Great world building.
I think they actually start all on the mother creature, and then they split into multiple pods of swarms. It even makes it a more confusing or whatever. But it also gives the hint of intelligence.
Yeah, for sure.
It's literally that scene in Baby Driver with the 3 red cars.
Sure.
Go on.
It's also the scene in Fast 5 with the 2 trolls.
Is it? Is it really? Is it the same thing again? That's so funny. It's very Hollywood, this movie.
Who would have guessed?
It's clearly biting off of Fast and the Furious. I didn't know. God, Bong Joon-Ho.
Oh my god.
Bong Joon-Ho announced Fast 7. Oh my god. Anyways.
You're a bit behind on the number there.
I am. I am.
But yeah, that would be funny.
He's just remaking it. Go on.
By the director who brought you Parasite. Family.
Yeah. Holy shit.
How are we getting so distracted on this one?
That one I really tried to pull back, and then you kept going. You hit the family moment, and it was too good. It was too good, though.
I had to.
That was so funny.
Yeah, I'm afraid the remaining little notes I have are also mostly negatives. So it's my turn to hate on this a bit. One of the story threads that I think is way, way, way too underdeveloped and really was disappointing to me was everything about the Kai character. We mentioned that the dinner scene with her is so incredible. After that, pretty much nothing happens with her. Like, that's the great introduction of her as a character really into the film, as a, fleshed out character somewhat. And we have also that great, somewhat romantic moment that follows from that. All of that is great. The whole sequence with her there in the middle of the film is great. After that, she just disappears from the film, and we see her in the end again, I guess, smiling towards Mickey and being happy with the situation. Like, they bring her back for a little reaction shot. That's basically everything they do with that character afterwards. And it's really disappointing to, she kind of then just becomes a story point, a bullet point, the possible affair. It's just a plot device, and that's really underwhelming for how nuanced Bong Joon-ho tends to write characters, to just have this. Yeah, that's not good. I thought the fake out dream plot twist ending with the
reprinting the
Toni Marshall and Toni Collette also being a clone. Why? Like, that's just bringing in another layer that was absolutely useless, whilst the movie already feels like it's over and had no additional value to me.
Real quick, when you were just talking about, were you talking about the main chick, or which chick were you talking about?
Kai, the affair character, like the one that wants to share the 2 Mickeys in that one dialogue with the main chick. Main chick. Right? You're putting words into my mouth.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. With the Nasha character.
On that point, they don't even bring up the fact that they reprinted what's her face. So in that scene, you're seeing them all sit at the chairs, and they're getting ready to watch the ceremony or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And behind Mickey is the girl, and not that one, but the other one, and from the ice room where the girl gets crushed by the ice, and she's been reprinted behind them.
What? I didn't even recognize that.
Yeah, she like sits down next to the girl, because they were clearly like in a relationship, right? She like sits down and puts her head on her shoulder and everything.
Oh,
and
you mean
got,
by the very end? Yeah.
By the very end, yeah. And they
that's
never even
weird.
fucking mention that. They're like gonna talk about how they're banning printing because it's such a problem, but they reprinted girl.
Mm-hmm.
Like, clearly, and that was a good idea. It just seems like a weird way to do that. I don't know.
Yeah. I have one final thing that is positive actually. The whole way they explore this idea of the illusion of free will in capitalism is cool. Like, I think that's an aspect of a capitalism critique that hasn't really been in Bong Joon-ho films before this, or at least I can't think of them right now. So whilst it
Okay.
is also implied that he wasn't fully aware of what he is getting himself into in the beginning by not reading the info sheet and also not carefully listening to the explanation, there's still this element of helplessness. As he points out, he has no support system, no job, no family, is in debt, and this is basically his only option left.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of shows that full free will can't exist if you are poor. You know, if you are in a dire situation, then you will end up compromising your own well-being, your health, your mental health, whatever it is. In this case, your ethics and your human rights to live and stuff like
Yes.
that. That is a strength of the film, how it explores that, I feel like.
Which is why I think that more focus on previous Mickey deaths could have really expanded upon that a little bit on each one.
Sure. Yeah.
No, I do like that. My only problem actually with what you're saying in general is the entire I should have read through the paperwork thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think this could be, something that's really just compacted in the last couple of years, which is why they didn't put it in the movie, because like you said, the movie was supposed to come out a couple of years before this. But I think it could have been really, really, really good and impactful if instead of him not reading the paperwork, if he would have just glanced at it and then we would be shown the paperwork for a second. And if it was written with things like, therein person who is within their own rights will not be permitted within validation of alongside validation and permission.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they could have made that so like the paperwork just doesn't, it's confusing. It's purposely written to be confusing. That's so reflective of society and the way we interact with companies now and law even. Like,
Yeah.
everything is so made to be confusing. I thought that was a missed opportunity, and I felt like it was kind of a lazy
Fair.
write-off to be like, I just didn't read it.
Yeah, my final note is also from an interview that just makes me happy personally, because it was the confirmation that his animated film is still in the works. Like, after Parasite, I only knew of his next project being an animated feature film. And then all of a sudden, all of this, the early campaigning for Mickey 17 and those announcements came. So I was kind of surprised and sad and thought that maybe his animated film is shelved. But yeah, he said now in interviews that he is back to full focus working on that, and that has been just slowly working in the background ever since 2019. So he hasn't fully stopped working on that ever. And might be the next project now that releases by Bong Joon-ho in the next years.
The Valley.
Does it have a name yet? I just remember it as...
It does have a name, yeah. No, it does. It does. It's called The Valley.
When I watchlisted it, it was literally just unnamed Bong Joon-ho animated movie.
He says it will focus on a drama that rises between deep-sea creatures and human beings.
And it has one cast already written there, which makes me very
Werner
excited.
Herzog.
Yeah, hell yeah. Something to look forward to, for sure. In the next appointment, we will have a core Devyn episode with 2 specialities of his film taste.
Your first prescription is the 1978 remake film Invasion of the Body Snatchers. In the film, a health inspector begins to notice a pattern in people changing and being replaced by alien vegetation. The second adaptation of the book of the same name, this version differs in its attempts to modernize a classic and is viewed as one of the early successes of remaking films.
Your second prescription is the 2024 released Looney Tunes film The Day the Earth Blew Up. Animated entirely in 2D, this is somewhat of a relic in the American animation world that got brought back to life. Taking influence from classic sci-fi, this movie follows Daffy Duck and Porky Pig teaming up with a new friend to stop a bubblegum-based alien invasion.
If you don't want to get spoiled for these films, make sure to check them out before our next appointment. I'm Devyn.
I'm George, and this was Medicinema, your healthy dose of film.